Okay, so have you ever, like, I don't know, noticed this certain kind of smell? You know what I mean? It's like around certain people, and it's not exactly a bad smell. It's just, well, kind of hard to describe, you know? Maybe you've even like caught a whiff of it on yourself sometimes. And it's that thing people sometimes call old people smell.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing right off the bat is this isn't really about hygiene, right? Like someone could shower every day, be really meticulous about their cleanliness, and still have this. So clearly, there's something else going on here.
Yeah, totally. It's not about skipping showers or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's more like, well, the sources we've been looking at, they kind of suggest this smell is almost like a signal, like a chemical signal. It's a subtle hint that maybe some things are changing in the body.
Yeah, like the body's trying to tell us something.
Mm.
And thinking bigger picture, this isn't just some weird side effect of getting older. It could actually be, it could point to some changes that we should be paying attention to for our overall health. Right, exactly. And that's really what we want to do with this deep dive, help you unpack this. It can feel kind of awkward to talk about, but we want to give you some real practical tips, things you can actually use to feel better. Because, like, understanding this stuff isn't just about, like, smelling good, it's about feeling good. It's about having the energy to stay active and do the things you love. It's about staying independent and really enjoying life to the fullest.
And it makes you wonder, what happens if we ignore these little hints? Like our sources suggest that if you just ignore these changes, well, you might be missing out on some opportunities to, really take care of your body as you get older.
Yeah, for sure. And we're starting with this idea of like body odor and aging, but it's not just going to be about smell. We're going to look at a bunch of different changes our sources talk about that happen as we get older. And even more importantly, we'll explore some practical things you can do about them.
What do you think is like the most surprising first step someone could take to like address this odor?
It might sound kind of basic, but it all comes down to soap, like what kind of soap you're using. And just being a little more, strategic with your washing routine is really interesting when you think about it.
So let's jump into that. What do our sources say about like why this specific odor develops? What's actually happening in the skin?
Okay, so generally after you hit 60, your skin starts to change a bit.
Right.
And it doesn't produce as much of that natural oil, it's called sebum. And that natural barrier on your skin, it gets a little weaker.
Okay, I see. So then what happens?
Well, here's the thing. You know your typical bar of soap, or those super fragrant body washes. Our sources say that a lot of those actually strip away whatever little natural oil your skin is still making.
Oh, interesting. So it's almost like in trying to get cleaner, we might actually be making the problem worse.
Exactly, because when your skin gets super dry, it's lost those oils, your body tries to make up for it, it overcompensates, and then those oils that are left, they mix with oxygen, and then the bacteria that naturally live on your skin and that whole combination, that's what creates that kind of stale, musty smell.
So scrubbing harder or using more soap isn't necessarily the answer.
Nope. The key here is to work with your skin, try to keep things balanced instead of just stripping everything away. And that's where the pH balanced body washes come in.
Right. So the idea is to be a little gentler. What are some of the good ingredients our sources mention to look for?
Well, they talk about green tea extract a lot. It's supposed to be really good at breaking down those toxins on your skin that can cause odors. Oh, and then there's charcoal. That one's interesting. Acts kind of like a sponge, soaking up extra oil and sweat, helps to neutralize those smells.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything else?
Oh, yeah, and citrus. Citrus extracts like lemon, orange, that kind of thing. It's good for freshening things up, getting rid of that musty smell.
Gotcha. So it's about choosing the right cleanser, but also, like you were saying, about the how. What are some of those practical tips from our sources?
One thing they mention is like when you're in the shower, don't just lather up and rinse right away. Let the soap sit on your skin for a minute. Just give it a little time to actually do its thing, break down those odor-causing compounds.
Makes sense, like letting it work its magic.
Oh,
Whoa.
and watch the water temperature. Those super hot showers, I know they feel great, but they can actually dry out your skin even more. And remember, dry skin equals more odor. So lukewarm water is better. Oh, and another thing they say is to like gently exfoliate once or twice a week just to help get rid of those dead skin cells that can trap bacteria. And yeah, you guessed it, contribute to those smells.
So it's kind of a three-pronged approach, the right cleanser, the right technique, and then some gentle maintenance.
Exactly. And the big thing here for you listening is that by making these changes, you're not just cleaning, you're actually helping your skin stay healthy. And healthier skin means fresher, more vibrant skin.
Yeah, it's interesting how these little tweaks to our daily routines can actually make a real difference.
Totally. And speaking of things that can make a difference, our sources also talk about diet, which I think we should touch on.
Right, because what we eat can definitely affect how we smell, even if it's subtle.
Yeah, so they talk about how things like processed foods, fried stuff, a lot of red meat, that can all increase certain fatty acids in your body.
Okay, and then what happens?
Well, those fatty acids, they get released through your sweat and then they mix with the bacteria on your skin and that can lead to that, that kind of musty smell.
Makes sense. And I imagine as we age, the way our bodies process these foods might also play a role.
Oh, absolutely. They say that those kinds of foods can also lead to something called oxidative stress. And that basically slows down how your body breaks down and eliminates toxins. And guess where those toxins sometimes try to escape? Yep, through your skin.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. So it's not just about the food itself, it's about how our bodies handle it as we get older.
Exactly. And they specifically mention red meat, like takes longer to
I'm
digest,
trying
right?
to read it.
And during that process, it releases these compounds, sulfur compounds and ammonia, and neither of those are known for smelling particularly good.
So it seems like diet can be a real factor in managing body odor as we age.
For sure. And actually, they talk about some foods that can actually help to neutralize odors, which is pretty cool.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, think green. Things like spinach, kale, all those leafy greens, they're full of chlorophyll, which they say is a natural deodorizer, and it can help flush out those toxins. Then there's citrus fruits, oranges, lemons, all that good stuff. They can kind of cleanse your system from the inside out and leave you smelling fresher.
Interesting.
Yeah, and don't forget those antioxidant-rich foods like berries and nuts, green tea too. Those can help with that oxidative stress we talked about.
It all ties together.
It really does. Oh, and they even have this little tip, starting your day with a glass of warm water and lemon juice. It supposedly helps jumpstart your digestion, helps get rid of toxins, and might even help with body odor.
Huh. I might have to try that.
It's worth a shot. So, okay, moving on. Let's talk about that second age-related change, declining taste and appetite.
Yeah, this is something a lot of people experience as they get older. It can seem like a small thing at first.
Totally. Food just doesn't taste as good as it used to, or maybe you're not as hungry. It can seem like no big deal. But our sources really stress that this can actually have some pretty big consequences for your health in the long run.
So why is this decline in taste and appetite so concerning from a health perspective?
Well, they say there are a few things that cause this, like our sense of smell. As we get older, those receptors in our nose, they become less sensitive. And since taste and smell are so closely connected, well, flavors just seem dull.
Right, it's all connected.
Yeah. And then there's saliva. We produce less saliva as we age, and that can make it harder to chew and swallow, and meals just aren't as enjoyable. They also talk about how certain medications can mess with your sense of taste, like some blood pressure meds, antidepressants, things like that.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. It's like a side effect.
Exactly. And get this, we actually lose taste buds as we get older, especially the ones for sweet and salty. That's why some people start craving those really intense flavors, super sweet or salty stuff.
It's really interesting how all these different factors come together to affect our appetite. But what are the actual risks here? Like, what can happen if this loss of appetite goes unchecked?
Well, that's where things get serious. One thing is you can start to lose weight without meaning to, and that can lead to less muscle mass, which can make you weaker and more prone to falls. And then if you're not eating enough, you're obviously not getting the energy you need. You feel tired all the time. And maybe even more concerning is it can weaken your immune system. You're more likely to get sick.
Right, so this seemingly small issue can snowball into something bigger.
Exactly. But the good news is you don't just have to accept it. There are things you can do. One thing they suggest is to really amp up the flavor of your food, but naturally. Use fresh herbs, spices, a squeeze of lemon or lime, things like that, instead of, just adding tons of salt or sugar.
Yeah, making food more appealing
Yeah.
naturally. What else?
Well, if chewing is getting tough, you can try softer foods
Good.
like soups, stews, mashed veggies, things like that. And if you think your meds might be affecting your taste, definitely talk to your doctor about it. There might be alternatives.
Like ruling out any medication-related causes.
Exactly. And they also suggest eating smaller, more frequent meals. Instead of 3 big meals, maybe try 5 or 6 smaller ones throughout the day. Focus on nutrient-dense stuff like Greek yogurt with honey and berries, that kind of thing.
So it's about adjusting the way we eat as much as what we eat.
Exactly. And the key message here for you listening is If you're just not feeling as hungry, don't ignore it. It's your body trying to tell you something. But by changing up your diet and your eating habits, you can actually get back to enjoying food, and that helps you stay strong and healthy. And our sources actually have a whole section they call solution #2 that gives some specific steps on how to do this.
Oh, that's helpful. What are some of the highlights?
Well, it basically boils down to making your food taste amazing, using lots of flavor, herbs, spices, flavorful sauces, and citrus. And like we said, smaller, more frequent meals, maybe 5 or 6 throughout the day. Each meal should have some protein in it. And of course, focusing on those nutrient-dense foods, fruits, veggies, lean protein, whole grains, healthy fats, and oh yeah, staying hydrated is super important too.
That all sounds very doable.
Ah,
Okay, so moving on. Our third age-related change is that dwindling energy tank.
ugh, yeah. That feeling, I think we all know it. You're tired all the time, even after you've supposedly rested.
Yeah, and it's easy to think, well, I'm getting older. This is just how it is.
Totally. But you know what? Our sources say that that's not always true. Like, being tired all the time isn't necessarily just a normal part of aging. It could actually be a sign that something's off.
Interesting. So what are some of the potential causes they point to for this constant fatigue?
One thing they mention is nutrient deficiencies. Like,
Yeah.
if you're low on certain vitamins and minerals like iron, vitamin B12, magnesium, things like that, it can really drain your energy. And then there's thyroid issues. If your thyroid is underactive, that can slow down your metabolism and make you feel sluggish.
Makes sense.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah. And sleep disorders. Sleep apnea, for example. It can really mess with your sleep, even if you think you're sleeping enough. Some medications can cause fatigue, too. And even being a little dehydrated can really wipe you out.
So it's really a wide range of possibilities. Definitely not something to just brush off as getting old.
Exactly. And the good news is there are things you can do to boost your energy naturally. Our sources suggest 5 key areas to focus on.
Okay, let's hear 'em. What's number one? Fueling your body with the right stuff. They talk a lot about iron, getting enough iron from foods like spinach and lentils. B12 is important too, from things like eggs and fish. And magnesium, which you can get from nuts and dark chocolate. Basically, you want to eat balanced meals, real food, not that processed junk.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What's the next key area?
Sleep. And not just any sleep, good quality sleep. So sticking to a regular sleep schedule, even on weekends, is important. They also say to avoid screens for at least an hour before bed. Apparently that blue light really messes with your sleep.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Oh, and if you snore really loud or wake up feeling exhausted, you might want to get checked for sleep apnea. And just making sure your bedroom is cool, dark, and quiet can make a huge difference. Some people even track their sleep, with those apps and wearables just to see what's going on.
So eating well and sleeping well, those are the foundations. What's next?
All right, this one might sound a little crazy if you're feeling tired all the time, but they say you need to move more, not less. It seems like the less active you are, the more tired you feel.
It's counterintuitive.
I know, right? But they suggest things like short walks, even just 10 minutes. A little strength training can help too. And even just some light stretching in the morning. The key is to start slowly, don't overdo it.
So getting the blood flowing can actually help with energy levels. Interesting. What else do they recommend?
Oh, and this is huge. Drink water. Stay hydrated. Even being a tiny bit dehydrated can make you feel exhausted. They recommend, starting your day with a glass of water. Carry a water bottle with you just to remind yourself to sip throughout the day.
Okay, I can do that.
And one more thing, super important. Managing stress. Stress can be so draining. They talk about deep breathing, meditation, setting aside time to relax, and get this, they even say to avoid what they call energy vampires.
Energy vampires. What's that?
Like those people or activities that just totally drain you emotionally. It's about recognizing those things and setting boundaries.
Wow, that's really interesting. So it's about looking at every aspect of your life.
It really is. It's a whole body approach. And the big message is you don't have to just live with feeling tired all the time. You can actually do something about it. And, their solution #3, it echoes all of this. And they even add getting a checkup with your doctor to make sure there's no underlying medical condition causing the fatigue.
Right, because sometimes it's more than just lifestyle.
Exactly. And that solution #3 also has some cool tips like replenishing fluids after exercise. Make sure you're not just drinking water, but getting those electrolytes too. And if you think you might have sleep apnea, they recommend getting evaluated. And then choosing healthy snacks to keep your energy levels stable. Oh, and they even suggest adding stuff to your water, like cucumber or lemon, just to make it more appealing.
Yeah, little trips like that can make a big difference. Okay, so Our fourth age-related change thinning skin.
Yeah, this is something a lot of people notice visually, right? Skin gets thinner, drier, maybe bruises more easily.
Exactly. And our sources are really clear that this is more than just like a cosmetic thing. It can actually affect your health in some pretty significant
For
ways.
sure.
So what causes this thinning of the skin as we age? What's going on beneath the surface?
Okay, so one big thing is collagen. Collagen and elastin. Those are proteins that give your skin its structure and bounce. They're like the building blocks of your skin.
Okay.
But as we age, we just don't make as much of them. So the skin gets more fragile, easier to damage. And then there's that sebum, those natural oils we talked about. You make less of that too as you get older, which makes the skin drier.
Right, it's all connected.
Totally. And then there's the sun. Years of sun exposure, it really takes a toll. That's why it's so important to wear sunscreen every day, even when it's cloudy.
Yeah, protecting your skin.
Exactly. And get this, even the little blood vessels under your skin, they get weaker too. That's why you bruise more easily and things take longer to heal. And oh yeah, some medications can also affect your skin, make it thinner.
So it's both internal changes and external factors working together. But why is this thinning skin something we should really be paying attention to? What are the potential dangers?
Well, for one, you're much more sensitive to the sun. It's easier to get sunburned, and those age spots are more likely to pop up.
Right.
And healing takes longer, like even little cuts and scrapes. And you're also more prone to skin infections. That weakened barrier makes it easier for, bacteria and stuff to get in.
Makes sense. So it's not just about wrinkles.
Nope. And actually, they say that even that old person smell, it can be related to this too, because when that skin barrier is messed up, it's easier for those odor-causing bacteria to grow. And thinner skin is also more sensitive to changes in the weather. It gets really dry in the winter. And then in the summer, you can lose moisture more easily.
So it's really about protecting our skin's ability to function as a barrier.
Exactly. And the good news is there's stuff you can do to help protect your skin.
Okay, what are the key takeaways?
Well, first off, sunscreen every day, SPF 30 or higher. And staying hydrated, that helps keep your skin plump and moisturized. And then using a good moisturizer is important too. Look for ones with ceramides and hyaluronic acid. Those are really good for your skin.
Okay, so protecting and moisturizing. What about things like diet and specific ingredients? I hear a lot about those these days.
Oh, yeah, they talk about that too. Eating foods that boost collagen is helpful, things like bone broth, leafy greens. And they even suggest applying certain things to your skin, like vitamin C and retinol. Although they say to be careful with retinol, start slowly, and just being gentle with your skin in general is important. No harsh scrubbing. Oh, and getting enough sleep, that's important too, because your skin repairs itself while you sleep.
Right, it's about giving your skin what it needs to do its job.
Exactly. And you know what? They actually call this solution #4 in their recommendations. It's all about hydration and protection.
What are some of the specifics there?
They really stress drinking water and eating water-rich foods and limiting those dehydrating drinks like coffee and alcohol. And they suggest keeping your shower short and lukewarm to avoid drying out your skin. Oh, and for protecting your skin, sunscreen every day, of course, and wearing protective clothing too.
Makes sense. And what about nourishing the skin?
They talk about that too. Eating healthy fats, getting enough protein, and they mention things like bone broth and collagen supplements, and getting enough vitamin C, E, and zinc.
So it's really a multi-pronged approach to taking care of your skin.
It really is. Okay, so moving on to something I think a lot of people worry about, forgetfulness and brain fog.
Yeah, everyone forgets things sometimes. But as we get older, those little memory lapses can start to feel, I don't know, a little more frequent, maybe a little more concerning.
Exactly. And, misplacing your keys or forgetting a name, that happens to everyone. But our sources say you really want to pay attention when it starts to happen more often, or if you notice it's affecting your concentration. Like, it's not just an inconvenience, it might be a sign that something's up.
So how do we know what's considered normal age-related forgetfulness versus something more serious?
Well, our sources say that it's normal for our brains to slow down a little as we age. It might take us a little longer to remember things. That's just natural. But when you start forgetting entire conversations, or you're constantly getting lost, or you can't keep track of time, that's different. They say to watch out for that kind of stuff.
So it's about recognizing when it goes beyond those everyday slips.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that can cause these issues?
Well, not getting enough sleep is a big one. Apparently, while we sleep, our brains are busy organizing and storing memories. So if you're not getting enough sleep, your memory's going to suffer.
Right, sleep is so crucial for everything.
Totally. And then they talk about certain nutrients. If you're not getting enough B vitamins, omega-3s, iron, things like that, it can also affect your memory. And some medications can do it too, as well as some health conditions like thyroid problems.
So it's important to rule those things out.
Yeah, absolutely. They also talk about blood flow to the brain. If that's reduced, it can cause problems. And that can be because of high blood pressure or just not being active enough. And hormones play a role too.
Hormones, like with menopause.
Exactly. And of course, they emphasize that if your memory problems are really bad and getting worse, it could be something serious like Alzheimer's.
Right. So it's really important to pay attention to these changes and seek help if you need it.
Absolutely. And they really stress the importance of early intervention. If there is something going on, they say there are a few things you can do right away.
Like what?
Well, start by just keeping track of your symptoms, write down when you forget things, see if it's getting worse, and talk to your doctor. Seriously, don't just ignore it.
Get it checked out.
Exactly. And then, start making those lifestyle changes that are good for your brain.
Right. So it's about being proactive.
Exactly. And their solution, #5, lays out some specific strategies for boosting your brain power.
Oh, that sounds interesting. What are some of the key things they suggest?
Well, they talk about challenging your brain every day, doing puzzles, learning new things, reading. They also emphasize staying socially active, connecting with people, joining groups, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And eating a healthy diet, of course. Lots of fruit, veggies, those fatty fish that are high in omega-3s, nuts, whole grains, even dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate for brain health. I like the sound of that.
Right. And of course, they reiterate how important sleep is, having a regular sleep schedule, limiting screens at night, all that good stuff.
Okay, so lots of practical tips for keeping our brains sharp.
Exactly. Now let's talk about that sixth change, digestion. Things tend to slow down a bit in that department.
Yeah, this is a big one. More bloating, gas, constipation, just an overall feeling of things moving a little slower.
Yeah, for sure. It's really common. And there are actually some biological reasons for this. Like, those digestive enzymes that help break down food?
Yeah.
Well, our bodies just don't make as many of them as we age. And our gut bacteria, that whole ecosystem in our intestines, it changes too. And the muscles in our digestive tract, they can get weaker, so things move through more slowly.
Wow, so it's a whole cascade of changes.
It is. And get this, the colon, it can start absorbing more water from waste, which leads to, harder stools, constipation.
Right, so it's really important to address this, not just because of the discomfort, but because it could lead to bigger problems.
Exactly. Our sources say that if you ignore these digestive issues, it can increase your risk for things like diverticulitis, where those little pouches in your colon get inflamed. And they say there might even be a link between chronic constipation and an increased risk of colon cancer, though the research is still kind of mixed on that. But one thing that's definitely clear is that a slow digestive system can lead to you not absorbing nutrients properly, and that can cause a bunch of other problems.
Right, like fatigue and weakened immunity.
Exactly. So taking care of your digestion is really important.
So what can we do about it? What are the best ways to support healthy digestion as we age?
Well, they have a whole section they call Solution #6, and it's all about, getting things moving again.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What does Solution #6 recommend?
First of all, fiber. They say you really got to up your fiber intake. Eat lots of veggies, fruits, whole grains, beans, lentils, all that good stuff. But they also say it's important to drink plenty of water along with the fiber. Otherwise, it can actually make things worse.
Right, so fiber plus water. Got it. What else?
Well, staying hydrated in general is key. They say to aim for at least 8 glasses of water a day.
Okay, 8 glasses. I can try to remember that.
And get this, they even recommend starting your day with a glass of water. It helps get things moving.
Huh. I've never thought of that.
It's worth a try. Oh, and staying active. Exercise helps stimulate digestion too. Just taking a walk after meals can make a difference.
Yeah, getting the blood flowing.
Exactly. And they also mentioned probiotics, which can be helpful for gut health. You can get those from fermented foods like yogurt and sauerkraut or from supplements.
Right, so basically focusing on a healthy lifestyle overall can really make a big difference in how our digestion functions.
Exactly. It's all connected. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about those aches and pains, that stiffness and soreness that just seems to become more common as we get older.
Yeah, you wake up and your knees are creaky, your back's a little stiff. It's tempting to just think, well, that's just what happens when you get older.
I know, right? But our sources say you don't necessarily have to just suffer through it.
There's hope. So why are aches and pains so common as we age? What's happening in our bodies?
Well, one big reason is just wear and tear. Like our joints, they get a lot of use over the years. And that cartilage, the cushioning between the bones, it starts to break down.
Okay. And I imagine that's especially true in the joints that bear a lot of weight, like the knees and hips.
Exactly. And then there's muscle loss. As we get older, we lose muscle mass, which can make us weaker and more prone to soreness. And inflammation is another big factor, especially if you have arthritis or something like that.
So it's a combination of things.
It is. And then there's lifestyle. If you're not moving enough, your muscles get tight, your joints stiffen up. It's like a vicious cycle. Pain makes you not want to move, but not moving makes the pain
Right.
worse.
It all feeds into itself.
Yeah.
So why is it so important to actually address these aches and pains? Why not just accept them as a normal part of aging?
Well, because according to our sources, if you just ignore them, they can really start to affect your life. It makes it harder to move around, to do the things you enjoy, to stay independent.
Right. It affects your quality of life.
Exactly. So what can you do about it? Well, they talk about three main strategies.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first is movement,
Mm-hmm.
but not just any movement. It's got to be gentle, low impact stuff like swimming, walking, cycling.
Right. Things that don't put a lot of stress on the joints.
Exactly. And they really emphasize strength training that helps build muscle, which supports your joints.
Makes sense. What's the next strategy?
Taking care of your joints. So maintaining a healthy weight is huge because extra weight puts stress on your joints. And they talk about eating an anti-inflammatory diet. That means things like fatty fish, lots of veggies.
Okay, food is medicine.
Right. And they mention supplements too, like glucosamine and chondroitin. But they say to talk to your doctor before trying those.
Yeah, it's always good to get professional advice before starting any new supplements. What's the third strategy they talk about?
Pain management. And they're not just talking about popping pills. They say to explore alternative therapies like acupuncture, massage, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's a great idea.